Hey everyone, welcome back to the Matt Report. As always, your host Matt, and this is the show where we talk to real WordPress entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Designers, developers, marketers, bloggers, authors, business owners, e-commerce people, anybody doing anything with WordPress, either selling services or building stuff with WordPress. We want to talk to them so they can join us and teach us how they did it so we can too. MattReport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe, join the mailing list, mattreport.com/join if you want to become a pro member and get in on all the action that goes on behind the scenes at Matt Report, to join other entrepreneurs talking about how they started their business, how do they raise their rates, how do they find new customers. We do all that stuff in the pro membership, mattreport.com/join. Joining us today, none other than I was going to say the WordCamp marathoner, the legacy WordCamper organizer, David Bisset of Dimension Media. David, welcome to the program.
Oh, happy to be here. Very privileged and honored, by the way. Thank you.
You are welcome, Matt. We are the ones that are honored to have you here. You're most well known for, of course, WordCamp Miami, WP Armchair, and bringing all the fun that is known about WordCamps to Twitter. And we want to learn about that today and some other stuff. So give folks the two-minute elevator pitch, who you are, what you do.
Oh, I'll try to make it 30 seconds.
We got 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, I work out of my home of a full-time freelancer and from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I started with WordPress when it was version 1.5 in early 2005. And since then, I've been working with, I do a lot of WordPress custom themes. I actually do a lot of highly customized WordPress themes right now for particular clients and companies and startup companies. And nothing that would be redistributed in the public or sold as a theme necessarily, but these are highly customized themes for clients and customers that use them for years. I also do plugin development, and a big part of what I do, actually the majority of what I do right now, is also BuddyPress related, and that's what I usually talk about. Usually when I'm at WordCamps, when I'm speaking and not organizing them. and as you know, and as you just mentioned, I've been organizing WordCamp Miami since it started for 5 years. We started, John Jacoby and me and a few others started working on it in 2009. 2010 we had 200 people, and last April you were there, and we had our 5th WordCamp, and we had 770 show up. So I've had the honor of doing that, and having 2 buddy camps also in the past year, and also having running the local couple of WordPress meetups every month.
Yeah, WordCamp Miami was awesome, and I'm sure and just knowing from all the speak of the last 4 being awesome, the 5th one was great. Especially enjoyed the ice cream. It was really that was not the highlight, but the ice cream was great.
Yeah, speakers, lunch. It was the ice cream. Yeah, that's fine. That's good feedback. We'll have to. Well, I know what to do next time then to keep people coming back.
So I'm curious to know, and I'm sure others are in the audience, about maybe starting a WordCamp. What was it that sparked that initial idea to say, you know what, we're going to take on this huge task, all volunteer, to do this crazy thing? How did that start, and how has it either progressed your career or at least connected you with other folks in the WordPress world?
Oh, well, it was just, I guess it's the same way others, when you ask them how they got into, contributing to core or doing the documentation or, starting their local meetup, you ask them why, they probably would say something that boils down to just giving back to the community. Remember, I started this with John and the other guys in 2010 or 2009. We had our first WordCamp in 2010. The WordCamps were just getting started, but they've been out for at least a year or two, I think. So, we weren't one of the very first on the scene, but I saw the potential that having a WordCamp down in Miami, which is a large metropolitan area, right? It's probably one of the biggest cities in the country in terms of at least diversity, if not population. So we agreed that there was potential, and there was, and we saw it as a way to giving back to the community, especially since there weren't too many of these types of conferences in Miami, believe it or not. So we thought it would just benefit everybody if we just had a WordPress or a front-end type of conference in our area. And it's benefited me. It's benefited me enough because I think at least in the WordPress community, like you just described, how everybody knows me. Whether they've been to WordCamp Miami or not, they know that I run it. So at least somebody knows me.
Yeah.
And they don't know me like, they don't, it's not like they, I know you because I saw you on the news and somebody's looking for you. No, that's not that type of popularity.
You're wanted.
Yeah, or you're the idiot who made that plugin that failed or something like that. Yeah, yeah.
One of the questions I have is about WordCamp, and maybe this is something that I might be asking the wrong person, but do you think that
Probably.
I'm trying to figure out a way to frame this. Like I had Pat Flynn on a few episodes ago, and he's very well known in the web marketing space, and he sort of flies in the circles of all like the typical web marketing conferences, maybe like a Blog World or an SMX and things like that. When I told him about WordCamp, he didn't even know what it was, right? And we're getting like 800-900 people, thousands of people that go to San Francisco. Like, these are big events. Like, why doesn't the rest of the world know about this stuff?
Well, they're local community-run, conferences. I think a lot of times, the people involved with you and me and Chris Lima and all, core contributors, we this is central to what we do because, we're involved with WordPress. We want it to succeed, and that's the reason why I usually start a meetup or a conference in your area because you want WordPress to succeed with this community element. But if you're not outside the bubble, I mean, I ask every time at WordCamp Miami, like, how many people is this your first WordCamp? And sometimes as many as a third of the audience raises their hand. And you're like, well, we've been doing this for 5 years, so how, where are you people going?
Right.
Where was the people last year? I mean, we sell out, so I guess these people are slow, but to get tickets or something. But yeah, I just think it's one of those things. It's still probably like the worst kept secret, and especially for people that are not WordPress centric. I mean, I use a couple of tools on my desktop that I use but not full of my life, like like Photoshop or all these other miscellaneous tools, but I discover these tools have their own conferences sometimes, and sometimes in my own backyard until a couple of months before they happen.
Yeah.
You have to be on top of these things to see them. So it's very, it's because the marketing and advertising budget for WordCamps also is not very great.
There we go.
That's part of it too.
Should those types of things be increased? Because I'm just looking at SMX East, which is happening soon. Search engine marketing conference, right? And this is just the East one. It's $1,800 for an all-access pass, right? And you can get the boot camp one for $500, but even the $500 for the boot camp is 10 times the amount of a WordCamp ticket. But the people flock to these events. I mean, I understand they're tapping into larger industries, but I don't even like to say that because I feel WordPress is such an integral role for anybody who's doing search engine marketing is probably touching WordPress somewhere along the way, maybe, or at least a majority of these people are. So I guess that begs the question: should the marketing budgets just be increased for WordCamps to reach more people, or is it not necessary?
I guess it depends on your conference. Like, we don't really have to market much for WordCamp Miami because, I mean, I don't even know what we're going to do next year. I mean, we'll go for a smaller conference next year. We maxed out a 1,000-person auditorium setup, and so we don't necessarily need to market the local and the outside people coming in. Some WordCamps might, but I think it might be because the example that you gave, was it a national conference?
Yeah. They have East and West.
Oh well, at least two, right? So there's that factor where you're only needing to promote 2 events out of the year, whereas WordCamps, they're split into individual pieces because it's a local event. So it's kind of hard to nationally market something, when you have a WordCamp going on every week, because there's eventually going to be one in your area. But still, I think it doesn't hurt to get the word out more, and because a lot of WordCamp budgets are all about utilizing the last dollar most effectively. Marketing does not really come into that too much. Usually you get the venue and 700 to 800 people for a WordCamp. I think Europe is going to be over 1,000, and San Francisco is going to be slightly higher. But 770 for WordCamp Miami is probably going to be like the top 5 in the U.S. probably as far as size, but that's still not large compared to some of the other conferences where they attract thousands of people. And
Right.
these are for profit. Usually some of these are for, I'm going to guess and say it's probably for profit conferences or
Right.
something along those lines. They're not non for profit. So yeah, there is a marketing budget for that. I don't really think there's a great need in terms of filling the seats in WordCamps regarding a budget. But yeah, you do want to continue promoting, especially the larger WordCamps.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and maybe it's just I'm so damn passionate about it because number one, we both love WordPress, or everybody listening to this at least loves WordPress to some degree, I hope. But WordCamps to me are like the best value, best thing you can do for your WordPress business, and even even if you're just a marketing person working at an agency, you might sell cars, but your site uses WordPress. There's something for everybody there. Maybe that's why I'm so darn passionate about it.
I think what might help too would be live streaming a larger conference. I know San Francisco does, and Miami's tried to do that in the past and offer tickets on a national scale, something like that, because somebody may go to a local 200-person WordCamp or hear about it, and they just they may not pay as much attention to it until they get to these larger, more not thinking of the word here, not promoted, but more, the larger events like Phoenix,
the more
San Francisco.
well-known.
The more well-known ones might be more enticing to somebody who doesn't know about WordCamps yet, maybe, if it's not local. So.
Right. All right, let's talk about you as a freelancer and how you've sort of narrowed your focus in on sort of the BuddyPress projects and plugin development. Give us a rundown on that. I mean, why the focus? How did you get there? And what has it meant to your business?
Okay, well, you're going to have to remind me because I got a short memory when it comes
to
plugins. All right, I'll just get okay. How did I get there? I asked myself
why did you pick BuddyPress while everyone else is, WordPress themes, WordPress marketing sites, the $500 site for the client? Why did you pick BuddyPress?
Well, I don't know. BuddyPress picked me, maybe. Oh. Let's bring Yoda in here. Well, I mean, I was always, like I said, I've been involved with the WordPress community and WordPress sites for a while, but late 2008, I heard about a series of plugins from a guy named Andy Peatling. Hope that's how you say it. I was just getting into social networks with Twitter and stuff around 2008, so that's when it was really starting to become a thing and making the headlines. So I was interested in social networks, which is ironic because I'm kind of antisocial.
No, you're not.
Well, yeah, you think I am because I run WordCamp Miami, but I only run it because I don't have to socialize with a lot of people. I'm too busy, so it looks like I'm doing something right. So yeah, that's my secret. I just let it out. So 2008, these series of plugins and modules from Andy he was just starting to talk about them, and I was so interested in these, in the social aspect of trying to bring it to a WordPress Word level where you would own your own data and do all the things that benefit from running a WordPress site, that I decided to follow it. I literally started following the project from BuddyPress 0.01, which was just like one or two basic modules you had to like install by hand or something like that. And when BuddyPress 1.0 was released in April of 2009, I immediately started using it for client projects. And it's progressed to the point today where the majority of my freelance work has been using BuddyPress, has BuddyPress involved with the project in some way, shape, or form.
How did you find the client that wanted a BuddyPress implementation?
Well, there's two things. One, a lot of them these days find me, which is amazing. I guess we'll talk about that in a minute. But especially early on, when people didn't even realize they could do this with WordPress, or didn't even realize WordPress or BuddyPress existed, much less WordPress maybe, I started offering clients, the right clients who would have good fits for a project, like if they were designing a website where you could view recipes or view, car parts or something like that. I would look at the project and say, what additional value can we bring to this site using BuddyPress or using something similar, and try to get them a little bit ahead of the curve in these days it's automatic that any startup project or any project that you have should usually have a social component in it these days. It's very popular. But a couple of years ago, that wasn't so obvious. So it was trying to think of the client's best interest in terms of, hey, if you've got a little bit extra time and budget to work, I think this is going to bring tremendous value for your site. And that's how a lot of my BuddyPress projects got started.
How would one use BuddyPress on a car parts site? Kind of interested in that.
Car parts site. See if I can try to remember that guy. Well, everybody, it was a question of people logging in and listing their preferences in terms of what cars that they work on, or what cars that they've have worked on, or what cars that they owned, and that sort of thing. And people would they would be able to post inside their profiles like parts they were able to sell. So there was an e-commerce level involved in that as well. And they kind of, it wasn't like an eBay or anything on that level of e-commerce, but it was just enough to say there were groups and forums inside the website for what type. I'm not a car person, so this was
Sure.
this was kind of tough for me.
Yeah.
But it was like, yeah, hey, I was these are the cars that I like to work with, or these are auto conventions that I attended, and it allowed them to keep track of all of the the parts that they sold, the conventions they attended, and that sort of thing. And it added to, people could view the public profile and decide, hey, I want to follow this person because this person knows how to work on, Mustangs or something along those lines. It was very simplistic a couple of years ago, but now today it's much more complex, where it's not just the website has a social layer like on top of it. It is actually so intertwined with the social layer now the projects that I'm doing, that it's hard to tell where BuddyPress or social ends and anything else of the other part of the site begins.
Yeah, so is it fair to say that BuddyPress is a sort of a cornerstone to social app building, using WordPress, or so are you using BuddyPress to do that, and are you positioning yourself for folks working with you as sort of your value add being, I'm the guy that can integrate social and create these social layers on your site. I don't care about design or how you've developed the rest of the site, but I bring this social level to this project? Or do you take on the entire project from start to finish? It's kind of like 4 questions in one, so pick one.
Well, I don't do design usually on these projects, because there's a whole other topic about the criteria that you should have when you approach a BuddyPress developer. And part of that is, I'm going off on a tangent, I can't remember, but it's these people that are, there's usually, outside of sites that you're adding the social layer on top of, there is 2 other case scenarios, I guess you could say, for at least that I've experienced with people coming to BuddyPress sites. Besides the ones where, hey, we can add this social component to your site, there's one where there's, believe it or not, corporate intranets is another one that I do some work in, because those are usually social by nature, and because people want people in the corporations to interact with each other and work on projects. But the other has actually been the best use case that I've seen recently and involved with for the past couple of years, is startups. A lot of the upcoming startups have some sort of social layer on top of, integrated with them. It's kind of like an app. Now, when you talk about building apps with WordPress, web apps or mobile apps, that's kind of the level of which I'm been seeing the past couple of years. So I've worked on a number of startup projects that have either have WordPress and BuddyPress as its base, or they're more proof of concept websites where it's like, listen, we want to build something relatively inexpensive, like 10 or 20 grand or less, which sounds like a lot, but they're looking for hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars potentially, and they just want a proof of concept site to be able to show to potential investors. And now that BuddyPress has made it so much easier and cost effective to add these social components, or to create these apps from scratch sometimes when it's purely the next Instagram or the next Foursquare type of apps, those are the things that on a smaller scale that is possible now with WordPress and BuddyPress. And now that AppPresser exists, which I know you're aware of, now you can actually have an actual mobile app now with your BuddyPress site. So these things are coming together where it's now cost effective and time effective to build a build these types of things. Now, I probably didn't address whatever question you asked, though.
No, that was actually a great.
Yeah.
That was a great answer. What I'm looking for, and you nailed it on the head, is I'm looking for folks to get out of this interview, particularly the other areas of opportunity. Because we spend so much time talking about the design, the development, how to manage a client, and how to find those types of clients for your typical brochureware site or marketing site, or even your very basic WordPress e-commerce site. But we never look at the opportunity of building something more robust, be it an app or integrating some social layer on top of that. Is there a particular takeaway that you'd want the audience to know about working in the BuddyPress scene? And maybe it's focusing on BuddyPress to find the type of clients that you work with now. Is there any kind of takeaway you'd recommend, or something you'd recommend in this space?
If you there's people that are working. There was people that more and more people are at least learning about WordPress because of its popularity in BuddyPress. So those are the kinds of people that can approach developers and say, "Hey, listen, what about this BuddyPress thing? Is it any good?" So those developers, a lot of developers, I don't know about BuddyPress, and even the best developers in the industry hire contractors on a regular basis. So my takeaway is that, a good, if you're going to try to do this yourself, BuddyPress developers shouldn't just dive into projects. I think there's a lot when you're working with BuddyPress or any site. There's a social element. You've got to think more about the experience. You got to think more about the UI before you code. It's usually more time consuming to go into deep custom changes later. So your client or the developer that is going to hand this off to a BuddyPress developer needs to be able to say, either I've already got this, thing's ready to go, or I need to be willing to spend more time and more budget to do this preliminary planning, everything from the wireframes to the user experience to the design. And I do some help in that department, but it's still a big takeaway with anybody who wants to take on a BuddyPress site or any site with a social component, is that it's more complicated and it requires usually a lot more attention and thought.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating stuff. And I'll just say it again. I mean, I just think that we focus so much on the biggest elephant in the room, which is $500 client. Need to charge them $5,000 so that I can have a sustainable business, and I need to educate the client on web and tech. Meanwhile, there's this whole other sector that sort of already gets it, and you can look for opportunities in that area, be it using AppPress or BuddyPress, connecting the two, building social components. There's so much other things that can be built with WordPress that I don't even think that some of us veterans are sort of focusing on.
Well, the big takeaway though is that I think you asked this question, which I didn't answer. Like, how do I position myself for this type of work? And I mean, I was fortunate enough to find BuddyPress when it was practically born and kind of stay with it because I was interested in it. And I still think projects like that or opportunities like that exist today. One of the reasons why I'm able to do what I do as a full-time freelancer is that I found a niche that not too many people were jumping on board with. And I found something that I liked. And I just was there, again, at its birth. So I talked enough about it, blogged enough about it, tweeted enough about it, so that anyway, I'm either the BuddyPress guy or the WordCamp Miami guy, or the guy who tweets, over tweets when he goes to conferences. And why the hell am I following this guy?
Yeah.
And but it's that niche that helped me stand out. So a lot of developers, they sometimes stand out by, the unique, interesting ways that they do custom coding or they contribute to WordPress. It's finding that thing that makes you more or less stand out in front of a crowd. And as much as I kid that, I'm not really known for my development skills because I just gave you the 3 things I'm most popular for, at least I'm known. So
right. That's half the battle, my friend.
Yeah, until the day I screw up or embarrass myself, and then it'll all come tumbling down. But until that day, at least I'm known. So I found something that I was at least passionate about and good enough in that when people think BuddyPress, after like a billion people, they'll probably think of me.
We're running down to the last few minutes. How do the folks see what I envision? Sometimes I'll look at the WordPress job board, right, just to see what's out there, right? Just to see what people are posting. Sometimes it's really just to get a chuckle, to read the sort of job descriptions that these folks are putting out, like
That's a
looking for a
Saturday night for you.
super ninja that can, code while he or she sleeps and all that fun stuff. Do you have sort of a minimum, buy-in to working with you, or do you have a particular process that your clients have to go through in order to accept a proposal from you?
Well, I have a minimum project level, but it's nothing that's, I mean, it's pretty low considering nowadays. I think it's just a couple grand, but it's mostly just to weed out the people that, that have, not the expectations that would suit me well as a developer. Is probably the best way to put it.
Sure.
It's still, and it's forgiving because, if these people are not insane in the membrane, then I do actually refer them to other people that would work for them. But it's still most of the work that I do now, I've reached a point where I'm working a lot on referrals, and which is fantastic. But still, I've gone through, rough roads getting to this point. I was laid off from my job at the same time my kid was born brain dead. So at the same time, and it was just, I've been through some really rough patches. I've been laid off. I was laid off at the same time. Yeah. So I've been through some really rough patches, but I was just, I forgot my point.
It wasn't easy.
Sometimes yes, it was. Yes, that happens sometimes, and this is the reason why I do a lot of my client work over email.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, it's trying to get through the rough times and trying to realize that, hey, again, it's all about that, trying to find that niche in what you do, and not having. There's a lot of the demand for BuddyPress has been, I think, is increasing, and especially since there's more buddy camps, there's more mention of them at WordCamps now. More people are beginning to realize this is a well supported tool. It's supported from the same people who are supporting WordPress, so it's a valuable option, and so it's looking good, onward and upward.
One final takeaway for the freelancer who is listening to this saying, you know what, I'm going through some rough patches right now. I can't find the right client. Everybody only wants to pay me $100 or $200. Non-business stuff aside, but lifestyle for your own mental health and well-being. Any parting advice for those who just want to run a good business and be happy in life? Any advice for that person?
Try to find things that you can do that they can give you more value, which is kind of a horrible, non-specific answer. But the way I gave myself more value is that I got involved in my local community. I was organizing my meetups. WordCamp Miami was a big thing. So that type of work, that type of exposure, and if you are, depending upon how much experience you have as a developer, networking can be a tremendous opportunity, because even if it's just other WordPress people that begin to know you, these are the people that are usually like way overbooked, there's probably a lot of people in the WordPress network that provide you with enough work, the quality work, the work that you're probably looking for, or at very least a stepping stone to it. Every time I go to WordCamps, I always see the whiteboards that have, we're looking for WordPress people. So this is the opportunity to especially get in on this networking level with these people, because there will come a day where where the demand for the WordPress development is going to go down or cool off at least a little bit. I mean, it's inevitable.
I agree.
It's just a question of when. Is it going to be in 2 years? It's going to be in 5 years? It's going to be in 10 years? It doesn't. Who knows? But it's inevitable, and but I still think at the same time you're still in the early stages of this, being able to just not have to necessarily be certified or anything, in terms of if you know what you're doing and are learning to learn and grow and work with other companies, other WordPress companies or other developers, you can still make a name for yourself, especially if you do find that niche like I did. So do it now while there's so many other opportunities out there, and go to meetups, go to other meetups, go to other WordCamps. Invest a little. If there's not one in your area, it's a good investment to try to go to strategically try to pick a good big WordCamp that you can visit and just like me, I'm not social, but I force myself to be social and for people to get to know me, and it helped me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome advice, Dave. And hey, look, if you can't make it to a WordCamp, you can always hit up WP Armchair and sort of watch it from the comfort of your own home, right? And sort of get in on the mix over there.
Yeah, and eventually start your own, or there's other WordCamps, or there's other WordPress conferences now that aren't WordCamps, that are offering, live streaming or other things in your area that you may be able to attend. It may not be just WordCamps. If there's any conferences that are related to your department, that you'll probably meet some WordPress people there.
Awesome stuff, Dave. Dave, where can folks find you on the web to say thanks?
It's usually not to say thanks. I prefer.
Where can they seek you out if there's a warrant?
Why did you waste my time with this podcast? DavidBisset.com, and I'm Dimension Media on Twitter. And especially, I love talking about WordCamps and BuddyPress. So I'm not going to build you a WordCamp, but if you want a WordPress, if you want a BuddyPress site, I guess that's good. I guess that's probably, just let's stick to the BuddyPress stuff. Yeah.
All things BuddyPress.
Yeah, let's just stick to that. And if I can't be of service, then I probably know someone who could. And that's because it's all one big community. We're not competitors, we're comrades. So.
Awesome stuff. Anybody who has those questions, go ahead and find Dave on the web. Seek him out. I'm sure he'll be happy to help. Amazing interview. For those of you who just and only listen to the audio, thank you for that, number one. But number two...
Thank you. Yeah, that's you are doing yourself a favor.
Head on over to the YouTube channel so you can see Dave in all his glory, but also the framed T-shirts of the WordCamps that he has behind the wall, or excuse me, behind him on the wall. It's pretty awesome memorabilia. So Dave, thanks again. Thanks everybody. MattReport.com/subscribe. Join the mailing list. Tell your friends. Tell your family. If you're doing some stuff in WordPress, this is the podcast you should listen to. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, Matt.